So now I'm going to cover how to write a report. What you have to remember, when you're writing a report, you're telling a story. It's like a detective novel. What you're doing, you have in the detective novel, you have the setup, you have the investigation, and at the end you have the big reveal of who done it. And it's very much the same when you're writing a report. You're telling a story. You're setting it up, you're doing an investigation, and you do a reveal. So in a standard report, you're going to have all of these sections. They might not be titled this, but you are going to have, usually you're going to have an abstract or a similar, which is a brief summary of these. We'll go through these individually in a second. And then you're going to have an introduction, theory, methods, materials, results, discussion, conclusion, and then you have appendixes and acknowledgements and such like. So usually the last thing that you write is the abstract, and this is going to be your report in 50 to 100 words. In the case of my theses, right, PhD thesis, 155 pages. The abstract was 1 page long. And we'll come back to the abstract. In the introduction is, why do we have to ask the question? Basically, with a report focuses around a question. Why do we ask the question? So, I don't know, if you're doing a report on moments, for example, why are moments important? Where would moments be used? And also, in the introduction, what is the question? What is it that we're trying to prove? And remember, so, like a detective novel, who's the culprit? What we have here is, what is the question? Everything in your report works around the question. What is it you are actually asking? Why do you have to ask this question? The theory, this is, what is the maths, what is the mathematics in the question? Because remember, usually if you're doing an engineering report or a science report, there's going to be math in the question. And in this case, this is where we put any of the equations that we're going to be using. Very importantly. So then methods and materials, how are we going to answer the question? Answer the question? Basically, in this case, what equipment and methods are we going to use this theory to answer that question? And you can't just copy off your lab sheet. A lab sheet might have step 1, set up a seesaw, put weights on it. Then you have to take it the next step. How does this, using this theory, answer the question? You can't just copy this bit. This bit in most experiments that you'll be given at university just gives you the technique to do it. It does not say how this answers the question, or how the results answer the question. This only says, how do we get the results? So when we do the methods and materials, it's how do we get the results? How do the results answer the question? The results, this is basically the evidence to answer the question. Resolve the question, or answer the question. Then discussion. The discussion is, how do the results answer the question? So, and then finally the conclusion is going to be, what is the answer to the question? There's the answer to the question. One thing about this is, in the results, the conclusion, you don't have to do a complete summary of how you did it. You just have to say, what did you find out? As I said, in my PhD thesis is 155 pages long. The conclusion's like 2 pages. The conclusion does not have to be big, but it has to summarise everything. And then this is the appendixes supporting evidence. Okay, so again, everything, when you're writing a report, everything comes back to the question. The introduction is, why do you ask the question? What is the question? Theory is, what's the mathematics behind the question? Methods and material. How are we going to use the mathematics and our equipment to answer the question? This is the evidence of the question. Then this is, using this, sticking it through these processes, what is the answer? How can we conclude what the answer is? And the conclusion is, well, the answer is 1. So once you've got all of this, then you can write your abstract. And your abstract is very short. It should have 3 things in it though. It should have basically, what is the question, and why, what is the question, how are we going to prove it, how do we prove it, and what was the answer. So when you're writing an abstract, if you're looking through the journals, you'll find that most people skip this last thing. Most people, when you have an abstract, the abstract is the whole report, often in 50 to 100 words. So don't forget to include, what is the answer? What did you discover? So I cannot stress this enough. When you're writing a report, basically it's coming down to, it's telling a story. You're sort of asking, what is the question? How do we prove the question? What is the answer to the question? If you do it that way, then your grades will dramatically increase. I'll also do a video shortly just on general style, on how to, the technical points, how to do tables, how to do figures, how long, etc. Okay, so what is the question? How do we prove the question? What's the answer to the question?